Hi everyone, my name is Gregory and I'm the Public Affairs Director with the Australian Jewish Association. This interview is in honor of Yom Yerushalyim, which is an important Jewish holiday celebrating the miraculous reunification of Jerusalem. Many of us in Australia have not been able to travel to Israel as often as we normally would due to government restrictions. So we are honored to have Rabbi Ben Packer with us to give an update from the ground. Originally from the Commonwealth of Virginia in the USA, Rabbi Packer served in the IDF and was a campus rabbi on universities, including Duke University and UNC. Today, Rabbi Packer is the director and supreme commander of the Jerusalem Heritage House. Thank you for joining the AJA, Rabbi.
Very happy to be here.
Could you give us, start by giving us a feeling of what it's like in Jerusalem these days? We're seeing news of terrorist attacks and rowdy funerals, but what's the reality on the ground?
The reality on the ground is things are extremely positive here. Of course, those things you mentioned are happening, but it's extremely positive. There's tourists everywhere, school trips from all over the country. In Jerusalem, the old city where I live is completely packed every day, in the last few weeks. Everything is back to normal after the corona restrictions. Friday night at the Western Wall, completely packed, nowhere to move, but everybody happy. It's a very happy time in Jerusalem. It's not without challenges, which I think we'll talk about soon, but it's extremely positive here, extremely positive.
Incredible. That's really good to hear. And maybe could you tell us a bit about what you're doing to strengthen the Jewish neighborhoods across the city?
Well, one of the major problems facing Jerusalem is the need to develop. We need to continue to develop. We pray to Bonei Yerushalyim, to build Jerusalem is one of the central prayers of Judaism. And that's exactly what we need to be doing right now. And we are doing it to some degree, but we can be doing it to a much greater degree. The issue that we're primarily facing, of course, is the political pressure and, quite frankly, terrorist pressure to not develop Jerusalem, right? The combination of European powers and other international forces and terrorism, primarily from Gaza, Hamas in Gaza, but also from others, are what's holding back that development to a large degree. And that development is vital to keep Jerusalem moving forward. So what we're trying to do at the Jerusalem Heritage House is to involve primarily Jewish people, but also other people from around the world to understand this dynamic and to take part in it in whatever capacity that they're capable of, whether that's purchasing and developing properties or whether that's literally moving rocks and dirt in order to enable development to continue. So every facet of development of Jerusalem, that's what we're looking to be involved with, both physically and spiritually.
And could you tell us a bit more about the Heritage House? Now with birthright trips restarting, is there an option for young Australian Jews to stay there? What's happening?
Of course. We have preference to Australian Jews, obviously. But yes, we never, of course, during Corona, but nonetheless, we are wide open now. And sure, people are coming to stay after birthright trips, after other trips, any kind of visit to Israel, where we're hosting people in the Old City, providing them with Jewish opportunities, and with the ability to actually take part in the miraculous reality that we live in Israel. And they can take full part in it. And so we're offering that. And sure, of course, it's open to Australian Jews.
Well, that's great to know. I can definitely recommend that from personal experience that everyone who's going to Israel after your birthright trip or your trip should stay on at the Heritage House. So now I wanted to ask you, Australia's just had a change of government, and the new government has in the past expressed opposition to recognizing Jerusalem as Israel's capital, as well as support for creating a state of Palestine. Do you have a message from the city of Jerusalem for the new Australian government?
Sure. I would just say, not just to the Australian government, to anybody, that the expression that people use on the wrong side of history. Don't be on the wrong side of history. I think that's very, very important for people to think about right now. The right side of history is the side where, Israel exists. Israel is strong. Jerusalem is our capital. All these things that are moving in that direction in the last decades. That's where history is going. Okay, that's what's prophesied in the Bible, and that's what's happening. People can choose of course, to fight that. But I think that's a very poor decision. And people should be very concerned about that. Every country has its issues, including Australia. You might be surprised. But it's important to focus on those problems and to avoid falling into traps set by other people with other interests that aren't really in Australia's interest or other people's interests, because you don't want to be on the wrong side of history when it comes to the Jewish people in the land of Israel. It's not a good idea. It historically hasn't gone well for people, and it probably will not go well in the future. So I would strongly encourage the Australian government to focus on Australia and whatever issues Australia is having. It's lovely people there. I'm sure there's a bright future, but to not get mixed up in things that aren't really where they need to be.
Important message. And for Yom Yerushalayim, can you describe what happens in Jerusalem? What are you looking forward to?
I mean, Yom Yerushalayim, of course, is a massive celebration here in Jerusalem. It's after 2,000 years, the return of Jewish sovereignty to Jerusalem, over Jerusalem, after losing 20 years before the old city and other parts of Jerusalem to Jordan and not having any Jewish population here. So it's a spectacular anniversary to celebrate. And there's a lot of celebration here all around the old city, all around the Western Wall area, the Temple Mount, of course, and dancing and singing. It's amazing. It's important to keep in mind that all of this is under threat, somewhat threat from Hamas in Gaza and other terrorist organizations that don't want to see Jews, forget celebrating in the streets of Jerusalem, even just walking in the streets of Jerusalem. So that threat is always there, but it will not affect the celebrations. And it's important that not only the terrorists understand that, but regular people around the world understand that nothing in the end will affect the return of Jewish sovereignty and celebration in Jerusalem. It is part of divine plan. It cannot be stopped. And it's not a good idea to get in the way of a train like that.
Very true. Well, thank you so much for your time, Rabbi. We really appreciate it. To all our viewers, Rabbi Packer provides a weekly update of news from Israel, which I strongly recommend. So what's the best way for our viewers to keep up to date with the work that yourself and the Heritage House are doing?
On Facebook, we have a newsletter. We send out an email with the news report and with what we're doing at the Heritage House. So I guess the best way is to be in touch with you, maybe, and you can help hook it up.
Yep, and look up Rabbi Ben Packer on Facebook or Heritage House. Yeah. Thanks so much, Rabbi. Thanks for joining us. Chag Sameach for Yom Yerushalayim, and look forward to hopefully seeing you soon.
I hope to see all of you in Jerusalem soon.